A sociologist wanted to determine the percentage of residents of America that only speak English at home. What size sample should be obtained if she wishes her estimate to be within 3 percentage points with 90% confidence? Part A, assuming she uses the estimate obtained from the Census 2000 supplementary survey of 82.4%. We can compute the sample size with StatCrunch or by hand. First, let's use StatCrunch. In StatCrunch, you will need to input a confidence level, a target proportion, and a width in order to get the sample size. We are told that we want 90% confidence, so the confidence level is 90% or 0.90. For the target proportion, we will put the prior estimate. In Part A, we have a prior estimate of 82.4%, so we will put that in the target proportion as a decimal. So we will put 0.824 for the target proportion. Now we need to input the width. The problem tells us that she wants her estimate to be within 3 percentage points. 3 percentage points is 3%, and as a decimal, this is 0.03. However, the width is always going to be twice the margin of error. So if you want it to be within 0.03, that means we have to double 0.03, and we get 0.06. And you will leave the sample size blank because that's what you're trying to find. Now let's input this into StatCrunch. Let's go to Stat, Proportion Stats, One Sample, Power/Sample Size. Then here you will select Confidence Interval Width. For the confidence level, we have 0.90. For the target proportion, we have 0.824. For the width, we have 0.06. And now press Compute. And we get 436. You will notice that this number here changes, but that's okay. And we get 436 as the sample size. Part B does not use a prior estimate. The confidence level is still the same, which is 90% or 0.90. For target proportion, we input the prior estimate. However, for Part B, we are not using a prior estimate. Whenever you do not have a prior estimate, you use a proportion of 0.5. So because we don't have a prior estimate, we will put 0.5 for the target proportion. The width will be the same as before, which is twice the margin of error. This will be twice 0.03, which is 0.06. Because we want the sample size, we need to leave the sample size blank. Now let's input this in StatCrunch. Let's go to Stat, Proportion Stats, One Sample, Power/Sample Size. Let's click on Confidence Interval Width. For the confidence level, we have 0.90. For the target proportion, remember that we don't have a point estimate, so we will use 0.5. And for the interval width, we have 0.06. Let's press Compute, and we get 752. And you will notice that this number changes. But just ignore that and look at the sample size. We get that the sample size is 752. Now let's solve the problem by hand. In order to compute a sample size with a prior estimate, we use the following formula. P hat represents the point estimate, which is 82.4% or 0.824. Z alpha over 2 is the critical value for a 90% level of confidence, and from table 5, we get that Z alpha over 2 is 1.645. E is the margin of error, which is within 3 percentage points, which is 0.03. When you use the formula, you don't need to double the number that you are given. You only double it when using StatCrunch. Now let's substitute the values into the formula. Now type this in your calculator, and we get approximately 436.04. Whenever you are computing the sample size, you will always round up to the next whole number. So the answer is 437. Now let's work out Part B. For Part B, we are not using a prior estimate, so we use the following formula. Z alpha over 2 is 1.645, and we get that from table 5. E is still 0.03. Again, when using the formulas, you don't need to double anything, only when you use StatCrunch. Now let's substitute the values into the formula. Type this in your calculator, and we get approximately 751.67. Whenever you are finding the sample size, you will always round up to the next number no matter what, so we will round up to 752.